ACPATA, members of council, it's my pleasure on behalf of Mayor Meloche and Chair of the Police Services Board to present our 2022 annual report. And just going through our document, 27 pages of the internal workings of our service over the 2022 period, and which culminates with the cost of policing at the end. Under the Adequacy Standard Regulation 0399, it is a requirement to provide a report on our activities, and there is a number of items that are listed there that we must report on, including objectives, measurements, and results from our business plan, and there's several pages of that listed in the report as well. Up on the screen I do have the report, and just wanted to draw your attention to a few points in here. Our organizational structure, that's on page 3, excuse me, let me grab my glasses, page 5 of the annual report. And it does break out a number of different divisions within our service. 2022 was a year that we've reorganized our organizational structure and included a new division, which included special services. And that was to address identified priorities. So within that area, we do have an administrative sergeant, officers assigned to our coast unit, our traffic enforcement unit. We do have an administrative constable in that position in there as well, and our community liaison officer. And I can tell you that having those officers, they're considered our community support people. So they act on behalf of our community patrol officers to provide support to the road when it's needed, and also to deal with a lot of the internal workings that are going on day to day. Prior to having that particular system set up, it used to be the responsibility of a lot of our frontline staff to deal with a lot of administrative functions, and that's running cars around and dealing with organizing, scheduling of bike patrol, etc. And with that, the way that was structured, it actually detracted from the frontline patrol work, and we recognized the need to make sure that that was in place, that we had people identified specifically to do that. And just moving forward, next page talks about what officers are in what places and different ranks. We have some arrivals, and our congratulations to Deputy Chief Woods and Staff Sergeant Noza Sanjari and Sergeant Goyen Nestor, as well as those recent people that we hired in 2022, as well as those that have left. But I wanted to bring your attention to two things. One is the designations list. Again, this just identifies the different hats that many of our officers wear. And I think it's important for the public to understand as well that, you know, when we get hired as a police officer, my time as a frontline officer as well wasn't just spent answering calls for service and just going and answering the bell when it's needed. If you look at the list, it's pretty exhaustive of the responsibilities that rest on a number of our officers. We ask people to do more than what is just answering the bell, so to speak. And by doing so, most of our officers have really stepped up and made sure that that happens. So when we need a forensic officer, when we need officers for breath tech, you know, that list is exhaustive. But again, there's multiple officers that wear multiple hats, and to get our job accomplished, and it's quite extensive. And I truly appreciate the work of our members, because they really do very well in responding to the community, responding in a fast way, responding in a professional way, but also taking on the lead in some of those different designations that are listed. Just moving on through our different sections and divisions, getting to, so let me find the page here, is our crime analysis and statistics. This chart is based on a crime analysis report that I do every year. It basically delves into the deep inner workings of our numbers on different types of calls for service and compares them year by year. And we have a couple of anomalies within those numbers, and one of them happens to be COVID. So the COVID pandemic that struck in 2020, right through to coming out of the COVID in 2022, it's had an effect on our numbers, and you can see that there's a couple of trends in there. Some indicate that our trends are coming back up to pre-pandemic levels, and also there's a pretty significant increase in our violent occurrences that are reportable to Stats Canada. When we look back over those numbers, of course, in 2022, it's been several years prior to that we had a homicide. 2022, we had a intimate partner violence homicide. That does have an effect on our numbers, and also we had a lot of a significant increase in the number of non-familial assaults. So that's assaults between people that are not of the same family. And when those numbers are reported to Stats Canada, that data gets sent back to me for verification. I verify those numbers. I keep track of that religiously year by year to make sure those numbers are in sync with what we've been seeing year over year. And I can tell you that at this particular juncture, we are starting to see an increase in that violent side of things. We do see a pretty consistent number when it comes to property offenses, but there is a slight increase in young persons involved in crime, as well as the impaired driving on the next page is what I wanted to point out, but I'll get to that in a second. Just at the bottom of this particular chart, you'll see that there's a crime severity index ranking and rating, and it shows us for the 2022 calendar year a crime severity index rating of 30.2, which is up significantly from the 20.7 the year before. And as I mentioned, the most serious crime that could be committed, a homicide, we had in the year, and that obviously does have an effect. And which obviously does affect our ranking on the crime severity index. Out of the 330 police services across Canada reporting, we rank 24th from the bottom on that list. And just moving on from there, just on this particular chart, it does show the impaired occurrences. You can see up in the area here that we've trended downward from the 2020 and 2021 year to an increase in 2022, which has actually exceeded pre-pandemic levels. So that's an area that we've been targeting with our traffic enforcement unit, and making sure that those particular areas are addressed as well. And so what I can tell you is just on my crime call and public disorder analysis report, the overall trend does indicate a couple of things here, and it's that LaSalle Police Service, we've experienced a consistent number of reactive calls for service. So just going back one page, you can see the calls for service are in the 6,000 range. That's fairly consistent year after year. We have had a significant increase in the number of reportable violent incidents as reported in this particular chart here, and a reduced number of lawless public behavior incidents, a consistent number of property-related incidents. There was actually a drastic decrease in the number of break and enters over 2021 to 22. There's been an increasing number of motor vehicle collisions, and that's trending back to pre-pandemic levels. A marked increase in the number of traffic enforcement actions, which that's as a result of that the particular units that we've assigned to traffic specifically to address those priorities. And again, as mentioned, a higher than average number of impaired driving investigations. And just moving on to the next number of pages talk about the 13 different identified objectives for the business plan. And in there we do have our measurements and the results. And again, this is an open document, our strategic business plan, but it does show the progress on the different areas that are listed in there. And then as we go through that, just on the very last page, it speaks to the cost of policing. And that's trending in, again, at the very bottom, it does speak to the fact that at that particular space and time, based on our population figures for 2022 and the cost of policing, it's a cost per capita of $263.46, which when compared to other policing jurisdictions of our similar size is well below what other police services are experiencing in other communities. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Looking to the rest of council to see if they have any questions of the Chair of the Police Services Board or the Chief of LaSalle Police Service. Seeing none, thank you, Chief. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to, I don't know if it's yours, maybe, yeah. I just want to point out that the report is always prepared so well, it's always so detailed, but the thing that's always missing is that real, I guess, admission to what we do in the town of LaSalle and what our officers do. We have had one of the most difficult years, I'd say 2-3 years, and we've had the most changes in that department than we've ever had. And we've done an amazing job, I should say they have done an amazing job not only keeping our residents safe, but also stepping up in areas that we've, as council, have come forward and said our residents are bringing to our attention more and more. So I do want to thank them for that, because it has been a record year in some numbers, yet we've been able to do a lot in other departments. And one of the things that we do in LaSalle, and one of the reasons our residents love us so much, is the community engagement, and we didn't lose focus of that. So I do want to thank our officers, our support staff, and all the volunteers in that department who are able to make that a success for the town of LaSalle, and that's why we love having them in our town. So I just want to bring notice to that. I know it's not written in the report, but I think that's really important for us to acknowledge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking to the deputy, do you have anything to add, sir?
Not at this time, thank you.
Then I'll need a motion to receive the chief's report, moved by Councilor Reno, seconded by Councilor Desjarlais. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief. I cede the chair to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to H, staff reports and correspondence for council's action. We have item 1, which is the Sprucewood Matches intersection status and improvement options, and I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. Tonight's report is to provide council information on a preliminary review of the Sprucewood and Matchett intersection and the Matchett-Morton intersection, and some possible options moving forward for the town. So I'll just do a little overview of the existing conditions. I know we're all aware of it, but the Sprucewood-Matchett intersection is mostly owned by the town of LaSalle, but does border the city of Windsor. The west and north legs of the intersection would be within the city of Windsor limits. LaSalle is responsible for the intersection and its operation and maintenance. There's a 4-way stop there currently with a red flashing light in all directions. Sprucewood is an arterial roadway and Matchett is a collector. At Morton and Matchett, both roads are collector roads, and there's a stop sign either way on Morton. And then I'll get into a little of the history of the former raceway property. So in the late 2000s, the developer of that property began submitting applications to develop it. LaSalle brought forward objections stating that there needed to be infrastructure improvements if the development were to go forward, such as drainage, the intersection itself, and, excuse me, coming out of that objection through the OLT, I believe it was at the time, tri-party settlement was settled or reached between the town, the city, and the developer that resolved LaSalle's concerns. Excuse me. Part of that decision was that the developer was to construct a new roundabout at the intersection when they develop the property. This would be at no expense to the town, and as well as the associated drainage improvements and sidewalks and pathways that would go along with it. So we had an agreement in place and executed with the developer and the town. The next agreement was for the town and the city to enter into an agreement that discussed the future operation and maintenance and replacement costs of the intersection. The intersection would be moving from its current location, and the new roundabout would actually be in the city limits, so it would kind of change the dynamic of who would be responsible for what. When we were having those discussions with the city and the drafting of the agreement was taking place, the development seemed to kind of cool off, and there was no movement on the development side, so the discussion between the city and the town stopped at that point in time. Fast forward to where we are today, coming out of a question from council, we conducted some preliminary traffic analysis at both of these intersections. So we looked at the traffic counts, the existing level of service, the geometrics, We looked at a high level, what a signalization would look like at Sprucewood and Matchett. What some of the findings from that review, the existing level of service, maybe I'll pause there. Level of service when it comes to intersections are defined as level of service A through F. A functions perfectly with no delay. F it doesn't function at all, basically, with varying levels in between. So level of D, for instance, the intersection functions, but with delays, above normal delays. So Matchett, or Sprucewood and Matchett currently operates at a level of service B for most times during the day, but during the afternoon peak, it operates at a level of service D. So on weekdays from 4 till 6, it drops down to a level of service D. Morton operates at a level of service C, so traffic flows fairly well at Morton. The issue at Morton is more motor vehicle accidents. So not so much traffic movement, but the ability to turn and incidents because of that. So when they're looking at defining level of service, it doesn't take into account the accidents, but when you're looking at a warrant analysis for traffic control at the intersection, it does start to take into account the accidents that occur. So with that analysis, some form of traffic control is required at Morton and Matchett, just based off the incidents. Not so much the volumes, but more the incidents. So we looked at some potential options at both intersections and different combinations because these two intersections really do have an effect on each other. What you do at one will have an effect on the other. So I'll just go through some of the options and move on from there. But at Sprucewood, one of the options is do nothing. It would remain at a level of service D during the peak PM times and kind of wait for the roundabout construction to take place whenever that development takes place. The next option we looked at was install temporary signals with the way the intersection sits today, with no lane additions, no turning lanes. If this were to take place, you could see improper movements within the intersections without widening the intersection to accommodate for turning. So we're not recommending that option. Not to mention, because you're not putting the turning lanes in, it's hard to know to what level it would improve or stay the same or potentially get worse, because it's difficult to define that movement, a kind of unknown movement that may occur within the intersection. The next option was to look at installing temporary signals with the turning lane additions. This would be a little more in scope as far as the work. There'd likely be environmental permitting required, filling in some ditches, doing the road widenings. To do this work, we'd have to do further detailed engineering design, but it would likely improve the intersection to a level of service B at all times. A high level cost of this would probably be about 1.2 million. We didn't list it in the report because it is a very high level cost, and it really just considers the construction aspect of it. So we looked at quantities and what that might be, and it came out around 1.2 million. At Morton, there is the do nothing approach. With the warrant analysis we did, we're not recommending that because of the number of incidents that happened there. A four-way stop could be considered there. That would help with the incidents, but that would, I think, make the traffic movement worse at that location and may not help with the problem that we see today. We're already having trouble with one four-way stop. I don't think we'd want to add another one. And then the next options are some form of traffic control, whether it's signals or roundabout. Either way, we would need to do further engineering to understand what would be involved, the scope of work, property if required, and then a better idea of construction costs. So there's definitely pros and cons to all of the above, and some of the things we want to consider is the cost, the functionality of the intersections and the traffic control devices, the fact that they're temporary or permanent, potential property requirements, and then the environmental portion of it. We did look at traffic calming as well. It's not typically used for intersections or done at intersections. Anything that you would do is really more seasonal in nature, so it doesn't really solve the problem year-round. They are both collector roads as well, so we try to limit or be careful with what we do with traffic calming on those types of roadways. But if we do further analysis on both intersections, it is something that we would make part of what an engineer would look at. And to summarize, any work that we would do at Sprucewood would likely be temporary in nature, whatever we choose to do there, as we do have a solution, permanent solution on the horizon. It's just the timing of it is unknown. And then, so at this time, we're recommending that we do some further engineering analysis and preliminary design for what the best possible option is at each intersection, and do that as one exercise, so they're looked at together. And this would provide administration and council some more information on what the costs and property might be associated with the ideal outcome. At Morton, I'll mention at Morton, what we do there would be permanent because we're in control of that intersection, and whatever we build there, we will just stay there. It's Sprucewood that's a little more, has a little bit more variable to it. So this, we're estimated at a cost of $200,000 that we would, if council were to approve, would like to start as soon as we could. We were suggesting to take it from the 2022 mill and pave allocation, and I do have to make a correction. I believe in the report it says 1.5 million is allocated annually. I believe it's actually 1.4, so we just have to change, the math would change a little on that, but that's the report, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thank you. Just to clarify on that, you said it's 1.4, but it also says the amount in the 2024 budget. Is it 2024 or 2023?
It would be the 2024. I believe what I was getting at was to basically set aside that 200,000 now so we could initiate it, and then we'd kind of go into 2024, but at least initiate it at the end of this year or sometime in the next few months.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, I'm sure there's conversation. Anybody else? Just joking. Councillor Burns?
Thank you very much, John, for the report. It gives, I believe, in this report, for anybody who reads it, an understanding of what the issues are and that there's no quick solutions. We have two partners. One is a developer, and the other one is the City of Windsor. After speaking with the Mayor of Windsor, it's not in his intention to do anything for 10 years. I think that's fundamentally wrong, but that's my opinion, and I understand where he's coming from, because we are in the same position. We don't have money put away for this project, whatever our costs are, and we have to cost share with it. The developer, if he goes tomorrow, he pays it all. If we go alone, it would look like we pay it all, unless the City of Windsor comes to some understanding with us. But again, we don't own the land. And to make a temporary fix here, I think is very imprudent for everyone. It'll cause more problems when you get up to a corner with a light, and I want to go left, and the other guy, he wants to go left at the same time. So which one goes first? The four-way stop works adequately for now, even though it's not the permanent solution. I guess I will only ask our lawyer, is the agreement with whoever owns the land registered on title? Thank you.
Through your worship, yes, we did do a title search of the developer's lands to the northwest, and there was 2 agreements on title, one with the city and the developer, and then the other one that's with us and the developer. So we do have those.
Thank you. I would make a recommendation based on, I believe the timeline for this is going to be 2, maybe 3 years before we're in any position to go forward. Hopefully, the developer will come to the party as well, and that we allocate $200,000 for the preliminary engineering studies that need to take place, which will probably take a year, but I would ask for administration's clarification, so that we don't wait 3 or 4 years and then wait another 5 years. So if we start the process with a cost, then maybe the city of Windsor will come to the party with us, and maybe the developer as well.
And just to confirm, that's a motion you're making right
Yep.
now? So before we can continue conversation, I have a motion. Does anyone want to support that motion that's being put forward? Do you have a question? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I heard what Mr. Burns said, and I believe it's in line with what Mr. Osborne has said. So just a point of clarification, Mr. Burns, we're supporting Mr. Osborne's motion. Is that what I understand?
Yes, we are.
Thank you, sir.
And just to follow up, that we also let the city of Windsor know what we're doing. Let's see what their response is to our initiation through administration.
Okay, so we have a mover and we have a seconder, and now we'll have discussion. I have Councillor Carrick and then Councillor Desjardins. Councillor Carrick?
Just through your worship, sorry, some clarification around the timing for Morton and Matchett. What are we looking at? Because I think it probably has to be moved forward, so outside of the Sprucewood Matchett, which is a bigger issue, but I think we can tackle this one a lot sooner.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilor Carrick. It would likely be able to proceed a bit sooner. I'll just walk through maybe what this preliminary analysis would look like. It would build upon what we already, the work we just kind of already did in the recent few months. It would confirm, an engineer would look at, all the options for both intersections together, given the traffic analysis. They would fill in any gaps in the traffic data if needed. And then it would put out a preliminary design of what both recommendations would be, or what should go at both intersections. And then it would show kind of what we would need cost-wise, what we would need price-wise. At that point, we could come back to council, bring that information to council, move ahead with if council so chose the Morton intersection construction first, if that was their choice, or both, or neither. But we would have a bit more data and costs and property information to bring forward. So likely, from if we got to that point, a constructability standpoint, Morton and Matchett would happen a lot sooner likely than the Sprucewood intersection.
Okay, thank you. I just want to concur with Councillor Burns' comments. It's unfortunate the four-way stop has to stay. We really can't do too much about that at this point, because again, if you try to turn left and traffic's going straight, you'll be there for the whole minute, the whole duration. So again, thank you for the report, and it's unfortunate.
Councillor Shirley? No?
No.
You're good?
Same question.
Councillor Renaud?
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the options in here is to do nothing. As we all know, with the legal challenges of who owns what, where the road goes, where the road ends, even the talk tonight of possibly widening the intersection will cause legal issues, because we've been told we only own up to that edge of that road, so that land has to come from the city or from us. There's a lot of balls in the air, they say, in the way that I just don't think there's an easy answer, as we all, have hoped that there would be. The four-way stop, as maddening as it is, I have learned to avoid it, as many people have, but it is a very important way for people to get home back to LaSalle. So I don't think doing nothing is in our best interest. People have been talking about this intersection for well over 10 years now, and they seem to think that we don't care and that we're not going to do anything. So I do believe that having an external company come in and look at the intersection, both intersections, see how they work together, and to take the emotion out of it that we may have from living here and get down to the facts and the science is a very good move. And I support Councillor Burns in his motion to put aside that $200,000 and get some more detailed plans. Thank you.
Councillor Ricci-Spagnuolo?
Thank you, through you. So after the engineer comes back with a report, would that go back to the developer or the City of Windsor for reconsideration to assist with the cost?
If we were to proceed with, after the preliminary design is done and we wanted to move forward and do detailed design, we would have to, especially at Sprucewood and Matchett, we would have to engage with the city, because even if they didn't want to pay anything, we would still need to do work within the city limits. We've had some initial discussions with the city just on that, and they really have no issue with us doing work at that intersection in the city, as long as it, meets their standards and things like that. But from the political side of it, I might have to defer on the answering that part of the question.
I can answer it. I've already started discussions with the Mayor of Windsor. He is aware of what we're considering at this point in time. He's aware that we are hopefully going to get a report back, which is today's, and then I will continue to be in discussion with him once we receive the one later in 2024 to kind of talk to him about what we can continue to do. He understands our situation, but it's not a priority for them. And they've been very clear about that. It is the edge of the City of Windsor. They don't find that it affects a lot of their residents, even though, we could all disagree with that statement. However, there's a lot more than just looking at the intersection. We also have to consider what's happening at Ojibwe and with the park. So there's a lot of conversations we're going to still have to have. But the mayor is well aware and willing to have those conversations with me, so we'll continue to have those open conversations together. Any other questions on that one? No? No? I wholeheartedly support the report that you put in front of us this evening. I appreciate it because we have talked about it for many, many years, and we can't sit here and do nothing. It's, we've for 10 years waited in hopes that that area would be developed, and there's no guarantee it's going to be developed in the next 10 to 15 years. As long as we all understand that whatever the report comes back with in 6 to 8 months and it says, maybe put turn lanes in, it could be torn out in 5 years. We have to understand that whatever we decide, that's a possibility, and if we're okay with that. But personally, I don't think we can sit around and do nothing. We are a growing community. We have a lot of other projects that are coming up in the coming years that are going to cause traffic issues in the town of LaSalle. So I think we need to make sure that this is an option that can help our residents get to where they need to in a timely manner. So I support this. I think it's a great conversation to have with the city as well as with the developer in the coming months once we receive that report, just to kind of see where they're at. And then from there, we'll decide what happens at Morton and Matchett, which I think will be an easy conversation once we have the full report in front of us. So I agree with what's been presented. I agree with the motion that's been put forward. And with that, I'm just going to call a vote. Mm-hmm. Do you have another comment?
Just one last comment. I'd like to thank Councillor Burns. We were all spoken to about this intersection in the last election campaign, and he was the one that brought it forward to administration and had the had the gumption, the bravery to speak about it and have this report brought up. So I'd like to thank him on behalf of everyone who didn't.
I agree completely, but in 6 to 8 months, I think we're all going to have to take that in, because we're all going to have to make a big decision, and this is going to be a cost to our residents to improve an intersection that's not going to be ours. So with that, I will call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. The consent agenda, there are 4 items. Does anyone want to speak to anything specific, or should we go through each one? No. Go through all. No? Okay, so the only item, go ahead. Yes, No, I had that one. And anyone else have anything they want to speak to in all those reports? No, so I am going to bring out item 3 in correspondence B, which is the Town of Aurora opposition to strong mayor powers. In correspondence, we normally receive, but this is one where I think we have to show our support to the Town of Aurora in their position, that we are opposed to strong mayor powers. We're still learning what that truly means, but at the same time, from what I've heard, it's not something that I think the town of LaSalle would be in favor of. It's not something I would be looking for. I don't see it as a benefit. There's 7 of us for a reason. So I would like to see us support the town of Aurora and not just receive their correspondence regarding strong mayors. Councillor Reno?
Just a question, and I'm hoping the clerk might be able to remind us, have we not opposed this in the past already? I know it wasn't from the city of Aurora at the time, but has this not, have we not shown our opposition to this already?
In all honesty, I don't recall. I know it's come back, but that, even if you have, there's nothing stopping council from supporting again, but I don't recall that.
Councillor Burns?
I also would like to support the town of Midland and catch and release justice. I think it's an important issue that our police deal with, and we should, I mean, we catch the criminals, they're out in 2 minutes, they're back doing it the next day. I think that that's something that needs to be addressed by the province and the Justice Department. So I would like to also make a motion to bring that forth and support.
Okay. Any other conversation on those two, Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to my colleague, Mr. Reno, they also announced new strong mayor powers expanded.
Yeah.
So even though we had affirmed that we did not agree with strong mayor powers, I'm going to suggest that the town of Aurora is also speaking to the new strong mayor powers that were downloaded to other municipalities other than the initial ones. So I'm going to suggest that this is the opposition of the newer strong mayor powers that was just recently moved to other municipalities. But again, it does align with the same sort of position that I believe, flipping through my notebook, that we took before when the initial strong mayor powers for the select smaller group was proposed by the government of Ontario. I'm going to understand that this is the larger group as well, with more mayors having the veto power, which again, to her worship's position, I find to be completely non-Commonwealth in having a veto of the majority of council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And just to clarify, before the strong mayors was a larger population municipality, and that's changed now to, I believe, almost 50,000 population. So a lot more municipalities will have that option to have the strong mayor powers. So I think that's the timing of their letter coincides with that announcement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to first item 3A, the town of Midland. If we can vote on the motion put forward by Councillor Burns to support, not just receive. So second, Councillor Reno, all in favor of that? And that carries. And item B, the town of Aurora, opposition to strong mayor powers. If I can get a motion to support. And Councillor Desjardins, so Deputy Mayor and Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? And that carries. And then last, we had procurement 2023 third quarter report, the 2023 third quarter property tax write-offs, as well as our summary reports to council. If there's no discussion on those, if I can get a mover to receive those items as well.
So moved.
And Councillor Regis Bagnolo, all in favor? And that carries as well. Item J, committee matters. We have the Essex County Council highlights for October 4th, 2023 meeting. If we can, I don't know if any comments or questions on that. No? If we can get a motion to receive. Councillor Carrick, support. Deputy Mayor, all in favor? That carries as well. Any questions and statements by council members? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I have one that I wrote out, and I've already spoken to some of the folks involved just to make sure I get it correct. Is that, as you may or may not be aware, within the County of Essex and the County of Kent, a substantial cyber attack took place that we now know going back to Monday. I still get the alerts from some of the previous jobs that I related to, and my inbox is flooded with alerts. With that in mind, I'm aware through personal knowledge of the damage that cyber attacks and cyber incidents can cause. And with that in mind, what I'm going to ask, Your Worship, is that we look to the appropriate staff to give us a verbal report on the town of LaSalle's cyber state, and that we do it under Section 239 of the Municipal Act to make sure that it's done appropriately and properly, because it deals with the security of our infrastructure. And we simply want to make sure that we learn from what has happened down the road and within the County of Essex to protect our infrastructure, our residents' data, and our own data.
No, that's fine.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And
I agree.
all in favor? That carries. Councillor Carrick, did you have your hand up? Yes.
Through you, I guess I'd be looking for a bit of a report. Doesn't have to be immediate, but any concerns, I've had some concerns brought to me in regards to disputed road in Broadwick, the state of the roads. I know Broadwick is pitched in the middle and it's pretty high, and the road itself is probably, needs to be looked at in that whole area. So if I could get a report back for our future report back as to what the long-term goal is for that area, and if that would be appropriate. Thank you.
If I can get that in a notice. Support, all in favor? That carries as well. Any other questions or statements? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. One more through you to whoever can answer it. I'm just looking to find out some information on organics. As we know, organics are coming down the pipe, and I'm just trying to make sure that I understand so I can answer the residents as to what the cost of organics may be. I just want to make sure that I answer appropriately and that I don't misrepresent the discussions that may have taken place previously. So I think I'm looking to our finance department to see if he can enlighten me on some of the discussions he may have had.
Absolutely. Through your worship. So I have a report from the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority in the county that was brought to council. There was a presentation in late 2021. I know it's expected to launch 2025. So at that point in time, there was some different options that were provided and estimated costing. So the option that was chosen is anaerobic digestion with landfill gas. That's kind of the middle of the pack option that was taken. The others were composting at the landfill or anaerobic digestion at WBPF. I'm not exactly sure what that acronym stands for. Anyway, the estimated costs, what it includes is curbside collection and other services provided directly by the municipality. So it's the estimated cost of the curbside collection, the capital expenses, including landfill gas collection system expansion, operating expenses and revenues. What it does not include is the costs associated with wastewater sludge processing. So the estimated cost at that point in time, which keep in mind that was 2 years ago, is about $550,000. So, you know, that was an estimate. There has been significant inflation since then, so I'd expect that cost probably to be quite a bit higher. As with all of our planning that we do, we did start building that hole in our budget last year, and we're going to continue to build it, or for 2023, we're going to continue to build it as a line item and a build up in 2024 budget, and then again in 2025 to hopefully, when it is rolled out, we're fully funded. But anyway, that's the estimated costing.
Thank you, Worship, and I do appreciate your candor in saying that these are older numbers. So if a resident was watching now, and I realize this might be impossible for you to do, you're very good at forecasting what it may be. From your perspective, are you able to even give us a number based on the number you just given us that it may be based on inflation and other things, or is that something that we'd have to seek elsewhere?
Strictly on consumer price index. So last year it was almost 7%. At this point in time, it's about 3.8%. So 11% increase. So it'd probably be over $600,000 per year. That'd be my high level estimate.
And then through your worship, that is your estimate, and
That's
I
my
appreciate that,
estimate,
sir. So what I will do is I sit on Essex County Waste Authority. I will take the numbers back that you brought to my attention, and I'll do my best to bring some newer numbers or some numbers that are more specific, if that's appropriate, through the mayor to share with you. I just wanted to make sure that I understood where we are before I ask those questions. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Question on that. Has there been any word of funding or grants coming to municipalities who are required to do this in 2025? Has there been any communication?
I haven't heard of any grants coming our way for this. You know, as they're announced, we keep our eyes out for every type of grant, but I haven't heard of any that are specific to organics collection.
I appreciate it. It's unfortunate knowing that it's being regulated in 2025, not leaving municipalities an option, and with such a large number, as you just said, it would be something that I guess would be expected with such a large announcement, but I'll leave that to the deputy to look into. No other questions, statements? Nobody? Notices of motion? All right, I'm just going to report out of our closed session, which we had on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. Council met in closed session, and administration provided information regarding advice subject to solicitor-client privilege. Anything else? So from there, bylaws. We have the following bylaw be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. And that's bylaw 8832, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between Gulf Developments, Inc. and the Corporation of the Town of LaSalle for tender 22-116, the new satellite fire station 2. Councillor Carrick, Councillor Reno, all in favor? And that carries. And then we have our confirmatory bylaw. The confirmatory bylaw 8833 be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That carries. Schedule of meeting are listed below. Thank you for attending this evening in person and on YouTube. Have a good night.